So, bom dia de novo. I'm Renato Beninato, I'm the CEO, the chief instigator at Milengo, one of the sponsors of this great event. I'm very happy to introduce this session that is going to be presented in conjunction by Cleo Shields and Richard Horn. Very experienced people, both on the client side and on the vendor side. Richard today is the localization manager at St. Jude Medical. They do these fantastic heart devices, and he's going to talk about that. But he has experience also on the vendor side, having worked at Berlitz, where we were colleagues for some time. And Cleo went the other way. She was on the vendor side. She used to work at Medtronic as a localization manager. Client side. And went to the enemy, and she's now with Lionbridge. But the purpose of this presentation is that, first of all, we have excellent, very knowledgeable people on the topic. And both Cleo and Richard started a group at Localization World that's called the Life Sciences Roundtable, that brings together not only the buyers of services, the clients of the it actually started as a client-only gathering, and then it included vendors, and they meet regularly at every Localization World event to discuss issues related to the medical industry, which is a unique area for the translation and localization industry because of lots of regulations and requirements. Hence, the idea of bringing an area that is very structured, and they're going to share with us their experience and knowledge, and we will be entertained, I'm sure. Thank you. Who starts? You have the time?
I do.
Oh,
Can everyone hear? Yeah.
Can you hear me? Oh, yeah. Well, good morning, Renato. Thank you very much for these eloquent words. When we were approached by Maria, Cecilia, and Fabiano for this presentation, we sat together and we were wondering, okay, how are we going to do this? Because this is not your typical life sciences conference, and we wanted to offer you a, let's say, interesting hour where you would be basically submerged in what life sciences has to offer us as a global audience, but also in the Latin American environment. Because, face it, if you look at us, he is from the States, I am from Europe. We're here in Brazil telling you things about Latin America. I mean, how international can things be? So, as said, we are from different regions. We supply different markets. We have a different way of doing business. I'm not saying that Brazil is different. I mean, we also do business differently in Europe. We don't speak the same language. That's definitely for a fact. But if I look at this group, I really believe that we have a couple of common denominators. Because whether you're a client or a vendor, you all own or represent a product line or a service that you want to share or market, or that you want to go global with. A product or a service that to some extent is actually contributing to the quality of life. It can definitely be a service, or the World Cup, or a pacemaker for that matter. And the most important things, and whether we want to admit it or not, we amongst us, we are working with each other. We collaborate on a professional level with each other, and definitely let's face it as well, we're also competing with one another. So, in that sense, I think that we are one big family. Okay, so now that we have established that,
what we're going to do in this presentation is really, our focus is on life sciences and localization and where they converge. We're going to talk about Latin America. We're going to talk about how the life sciences industry has grown in recent years, and also how localization has adapted to that growth. So this is our main focus. We're going to try to explain to everybody how we define life sciences, how we define localization, and on more personal terms, day to day, how we work in these fields. studied quite a bit for this presentation on how Latin America has become a focus. And, we've learned quite a bit about the region in the context of our own work. And so I think this has also been a very educational experience for all of us, for both of us.
One quick slide. I think we're all familiar with the term localization, but we just thought we might put it up here for those who are not so familiar with localization. And as far as life sciences is concerned, we tend to speak about medical or pharmaceutical or clinical, and the term life sciences or the concept life sciences has become rather popular in recent years. But I've already had 3 questions from people in the audience. What does life sciences mean? So, I mean, the scientific definition in Wikipedia is up there, so you can read it for yourself. But it's very broad. I mean, it's pharmacology, physiology, biotechnology, I mean, everything. But in respect of the time also and the agenda that we have for today, we want to clearly say that the focus for today is medical devices and the medical device market in Latin America. Okay, and that brings us to the key topics, so that you have some sort of sense of what we want to share with you, is that what we thought would be nice to share with you the key trends in life science and localization, both from a global perspective, but definitely also from a Latin American perspective. That's why we are here, Sissy. We want to go a little bit into the regulatory requirements, because those are extremely important and vital to the medical device industry. That will be your part, and I will go a little bit into the business economics of the Latin American medical device market. Richard will also present a case study from St. Jude, and in the end we will also show you how those key topics, life sciences and localization, come together in the Latin American market.
So when we talk about Latin America, what are the differentiators? And I would say, first of all, that the spirit of growth and opportunity, this energy that emanates from the region, and especially recently with the economic growth, that's a major factor, and especially in the life sciences industry. So, the context of this is spirit of growth and how we're looking at Latin America in a new way. In the rest of the world, the economy has basically been stagnant or worse. But in Latin America, there's been steady growth year on year. So we're also looking at this market in the rest of the world in different terms. One major factor in Latin America that does differ from other regions is that the markets are not as harmonized when it comes to regulations. So where you might find the EU or North America more in sync as far as regulations, when it comes to Latin America, that's coming together, but it hasn't completely formed yet. So you can't necessarily generalize from one country to the next, but there is a trend toward increasing that harmonization. I think that's it. And one thing that we want to emphasize is that the diversity of cultures that come together in this region. I should just come over here. All right. That also is a major factor in the growth of the region. So we've got influences from all over the world, and if you take Latin America, which is this huge construct, to even mention it in one term, it's almost daunting. But if you think about all the different cultures, and then within each country, all the regions and what makes up those regions, it's such a diverse, rich place to start. And in my experience, working with diversity is the output that you get is much better than if you have one homogeneous group. So this is something else that's a major factor. Okay.